Hi, it's Aaron. How you doing? In this video, I'm going to show you how to fix a wobbly steering column on a GM tilt steering wheel or steering column. Pretty easy fix. The objective here is we're going to be taking off the steering wheel, all the electronics, the wiper switch. We're going to have to remove this, which is your tilt function switch. Going to have to remove this collar, because there are 3 Torx headed bolts that have worked its way loose. This is a very common in mid 80s to 90s, even some 70s cars have these tilt steering columns. So if your steering wheel doesn't look the same, don't worry. Probably chances are it has the same mechanism for the tilt. So let's get going. I'm going to show you the tools and special tools you're going to need to remove it. It's gonna seem like a lot of work, but trust me, after you get into it, it's just nothing but nuts and bolts. All right, so here we go. First thing you want to do is remove your horn button. As you can see here, someone's already done that for me. This truck doesn't have a horn button. So you're gonna see a clip inside here. You're gonna take your screwdriver and go ahead and remove that clip to expose access to the nut. Once we have that clip off, you're gonna remove this bolt. It's a 7/8 headed, nut. 7/8 or a 21 millimeter will take it off. I'm using impact just because it's quicker. If you don't have one, no big deal, but if you do have an impact or access to power tools, it's going to be a good idea to use them to save some time. Once we got the bolt or the nut off, we're going to want to bust out with our steering wheel puller kit. Got this one from Harbor Freight, works just fine. Basically what we're going to want to do here is you're going to find the correct bolt. And if you can see, there's 2 bolt holes, one right there, one right there. Put 1 bolt in, then you're going to take this adapter and you're going to throw it around the bolt, and you're going to allow this stud to contact the stud right here. So go ahead and do that. Have that in. Take your second bolt, and let's see if you can see in there. Probably not, but there's another hole you need to throw this one in. I don't know what GM's using for material on these steering wheels, but it's not too great. So whatever you do not strip the do not strip those holes out, or else you'll find yourself going to a junkyard. So go ahead and have those in tight, and make sure they're good installed. Make sure your bolts are tight. What we're going to want to do is we're going to want to take this stud, and we're going to want to drive it down towards the center using a wrench. I'm using an impact driver, a little 3/8 impact driver. These things are great, saves you lots of time. So let's go ahead and get the steering wheel off. There you go. There she be. Go ahead and lay that aside. Now we have access to our steering wheel lock plate. This is where the second part of our puller kit comes into play. Go ahead and find your right adapter. There she is. Take this little horseshoe looking deal, install it around here, and your nut. Not being very carefully here, what you're going to want to do is take this nut, and I'm going to go get a wrench. I'm going to tighten this all the way down until it fully exposes this clip down here. A little hard to see, better from that side. There's a clip down there that's going to be exposed a lot better, so we can remove it and remove the steering wheel lock plate. Once you got the stud pushed, or actually the nut tightened all the way down, you can see that clip is a lot better accessible, a lot more accessible I should say. Go ahead, take your screwdriver and remove this retaining clip off. Go ahead and take your little protector dealy there. You're going to see this cog looking piece, and there's our retaining clip. Do not lose this, they're very hard to find. Get yourself a magnetic tray and all your small bolts. Make sure they go back in there. That's just a little tip. I like to place everything down in the direction that it came. Here's our little horn contactor that doesn't really do anything. What we're going to have is we're going to have a spring, and then once we take off the spring, you have access to your turn signal switch. There are 4 Phillips headed bolts or screws that we're going to need to remove. You're going to gain access to some of them by turning the turn signal. So one's right there, 2, 3, 4. Go ahead and remove those. Throw them in your bin. There's this tab here which connects to the turn signal switch. you're gonna want to remove it. That's what it looks like there. Next thing you do is you get a little magnet. These screws are recessed, so having a magnet really makes getting them out super easy. That way you're not fishing for it. Some of them aren't all the way out. There we go. So go ahead and remove those, and then the next thing we're going to do is remove this turn signal. What you're going to want to do is remove your hazard switch handle. This little button that's right here. The Phillips screw that holds it in. Go ahead and get rid of it, and you can actually see that this is part of the turn signal switch. Once you got that out, very carefully pry and remove your switch, which is going to get you access to a couple of torque screws. There's 3 of them. 2, 3. Let's go ahead and get those out. It's going to allow us to remove our ignition tumbler. The torque's 20, and these larger bolts are a T30. It's kind of an odd bolt, so you know what it looks like. Once that's done, go ahead and remove your ignition tumbler. If yours is sticking, now's a nice time to go down to O'Reilly's, and for $15–20 you can get yourself a new one. Very easy to replace, but while we're here, that's something you might want to consider. Next thing, go ahead and pull out your turn signal and wiper switch. Just pull it out so the wires can come through. And if you get as much wires as you can out of here, you should be able to take this collar and slide it down, which is going to get us access to remove this right here. This came with, I don't know why, but it's going down there. And now it gives us access to go to the nitty-gritty. So this is where our pivot pin puller comes into effect, and here's how you're going to install it. You're going to install it in the side of your steering column by first, I believe, putting your bolt on, or your nut on, your 2 washers, and then this is going to slide right around here, and these threads are going to actually go inside of your pivot pin. This is your pivot pin right here, and it needs to come out in order for us to get this assembly. You need to install it. So go ahead and make sure it's nice and tight. All the threads get in there that you can. This little crescent shape needs to be facing this way in order for you to install it all the way. And that's about it. Next thing that you're going to need to do is tighten down this nut, which is going to remove our pivot pin. So once you have this nut tightened all the way, your pivot pin should be free. There's 2 on each side. Don't lose them. Go ahead and take both of them out. I'm going to take this whole head off, but first, this is kind of weird because this spring should actually be inside here. Someone's been fidgeting with this, so I'm going to attempt to remove this spring and cap. There's a spring. I got to get it out. It should be right inside there. I don't know how that worked, but it's not. So once I remove that spring, you're gonna have to kind of play with it, and this whole pivoted assembly comes right out. I actually don't need that in there anymore. So go ahead and get this steering assembly deal off. A couple of notes to help you out with it because I struggled. Put your little handle back on. It's gonna help you get some leverage to remove it. Also, this fell off. This is for your starter switch. As you can see, it goes in there. Make sure it goes back correct. While you're there, you can see there's been some friction on there. I'm gonna go ahead and grease this up just to help it move along and hopefully it doesn't break down the road. It's pretty dirty in here. So that's about it. I was wrong. There's actually 4 bolts in there, and they've worked themselves good and loose. You're gonna need a E8, which is external 8 socket to get those tight. I'm gonna go ahead and snug it up and put everything back together in reverse order. One more little side note: when you're getting this assembly back on, you're gonna have to move this lever. There's 2 teeth in the top right here. And when you move this lever, you can see it engages and disengages a pin that runs horizontal. So go ahead and get that out of there because we're going to be putting it back together. Back in, you could just hammer them in with a hammer. They just press in there, and there's no real special tool required to put them back together. Once you do, make sure your truck starts. We did mess with the ignition, so we want to make sure everything's good with that. Make sure everything's functional. Your wipers, your turn signal, the tilt. Make sure it's all good, and of course, make sure it's firm, and mine is. So I hope this video helped. If you got any questions, please feel free to mention something in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them. If you guys do this and done it before, do you do it a different way? Let me know. I'm always up for learning and trying new things. So thanks again. Please like and subscribe as well, and we'll see you next time.